You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hey, wait! Gus, wait! Wait! I'll never learn to ride a bike. Or get cooties. I'll never learn to fly. Or travel the world with my best friend. And I won't ever get married. I couldn't grow up because I died from an accident.
At Nationwide, we believe in protecting what matters most. Your kids. Together, we can make safe happen.
Folks, you are listening to America Off the Rails, now a proud member of the Conservative Commando Radio Network, right here on WNJC 1360 AM, the powerhouse of Philadelphia. Now, I have a question for you. Do you ever find yourself maybe not near a radio? Maybe you're traveling and you don't have access to the internet? Did you know that the Conservatives Commando Radio Network can now be heard on a telephone network by calling 832-999-1199 anytime, day or night? That's right. You can hear every show as it's broadcast live, even if you're not near the radio or an internet, because, everybody nowadays has a phone in their hand. But here's the good news, though. As soon as we go off the air at night on the Conservative Commando Radio Network right here on WNJC, you can listen to every show that aired for that day as many times as you want just by dialing that number. It'll be a live feature every day at 12 p.m. daily, and it'll be exclusively for the shows that run on that network. But until the next day when it goes live again, they're going to run them over and over and over again. So now you have on-demand access to the Conservative Commando Radio Network right on your phone. How cool is that? Just remember, the Conservative Commando Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree-hugging, hippie, free-to-be, you and me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We'll pay an awful lecture.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks, this is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We are coming to you live, first live edition since the return from CPAC. I have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of things that have been going on in the news. And bear with me, I have been having a bit of an issue with my allergies since I returned to the home state again. The interesting thing is I spent, almost a week in D.C., Maryland area. No issues with allergies. Come back home, 20 minutes on the road, 20 minutes off the plane, and I can't breathe. Go figure. All right, so for those of you listening, this is currently being broadcast live on K98 Talk through the Spark Radio Network, and will also be syndicated tomorrow on WNJC 1360 AM. So for anyone who's confused right now, bear with me. This will actually have more of the flavor of a live WNJC broadcast, because this will be the one that I'll be sending over there to them. I do, for those of you who are listening on WNJC right now, a little disappointed. I do plan on getting back into the groove of things once I get home and get settled in again. I have to admit the trip took a lot more out of me than I anticipated, so I am cheating a little bit this week. You guys will get your own fresh episode next week. Pardon me. See, told you. I was having voice issues. But anyway, so I want to thank you to everyone who took the time to tune in while we were at CPAC. I have to admit that was my first time there. That's actually what we're going to spend the first part of the show talking about, mainly because I have to do something to keep my head from exploding, because the news has just been completely and utterly insane. But we'll spend the last half of the show talking about that. I just want to give you first impressions of a guy who's never been to CPAC before. That place was insane. And for anybody who thinks that conservatives are uptight and they don't know how to party, you should probably go to something like CPAC at least once. I would recommend that one probably among probably the top one in the country. I've only been to 2, to be honest. I've been to CPAC this year, and I went to Southern Republican Leadership Conference last year when it was in my home state, and actually my home city at the time. But I have to admit, that one had nothing on CPAC. Now, as a first-timer out at SRLC, it was great. I got to meet lots of cool people, got to make some awesome connections, but it was nothing like the connections that I've made during my time at CPAC. I actually got to sit down and interview Chris Lash. Some of you may know him as Dana's husband, which is how he refers to himself, which I find humorous because he is a pretty big conservative powerhouse all in his own right. So if you have not been following him on Twitter or keeping up with the articles that he writes on Dana's website, I do encourage you to do so. I also had a chance to sit down with the newly hired editor of American Action News, who spent about 20 minutes with me, and we talked politics, Obama, Trump, etc. I have to admit, most everybody I talk to, short of Sean Hannity, really wasn't much of a Trump fan. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I give Sean a lot of grief. And I have for a while, because he comes across as a really big Trump supporter. But I have to be at least somewhat fair. He is at least trying to also give Cruz equal mic time, so I can't really be that mad at him. I mean, he's not as bad as some that I know that have completely jumped on board the Trump train. Now, there's some irony for you to stop and think about. This show was started roughly almost 4 years ago at this point, and it was entitled America Off the Rails. Now the folks that are claiming that they're going to save the country are riding on a Trump train. Irony? Probably. Just saying. I don't know. I haven't, and we'll get to that more in a bit, because we've got a clip of a statement that Donald made while at the most recent debate, which happened while I was at CPAC, and some crowd reaction, which was absolutely amazing. CPAC was definitely not Trump-friendly territory, which was interesting when you think about it, because if you listen to the media and you listen to all the people on social media, Trump is the savior. Trump is the guy that's going to make America great again. It's going to be huge. It's going to be this bigly thing, you know. And when you talk to everyday common sense conservative people, they're like, yeah, no. And then you see the polls and the elections and the primary stuff, and you see that for a while it looked like Trump was gonna run away with it. I'm not gonna lie. I was actually really starting to get terrified. But as this election goes on, Cruz is continuing to close the gap. I mean, he's within, 100 delegates now? Pretty close. He's got a lot less distance now than he did when he started. And at this point, if Rubio and Kasich would grow a brain or share one between the two of them and would actually throw their support in behind Cruz, Cruz would technically have more delegates than Trump does right now. But that's a story that we'll have to go into as well, because I have a feeling there's a couple of really big egos in play. Kasich doesn't come across as a guy with an ego, but his behavior says otherwise. And Rubio has himself convinced that he's the next Ronald Reagan. Even his ads harken back to Reagan over and over and over again. But let me tell you the one thing that I know about both of those men, and even especially Trump, because that's a comparison that has been made time and time again in social media. None of those men are Reagan. If you want the closest comparison to someone who actually could possibly be Reagan, it would be Cruz. And I know some of you right now are pulling out your talking points and all the things that all the Trump fans tell you, and you're like, but Rick, he's not even eligible to be president because he wasn't born in the country. He's a citizen of the country. The Constitution does not ever strictly interpret what it meant when it said natural-born citizen. So you're grasping at straws. It's the same thing, and I have to admit, when the Obama birther movement started, which oddly enough, much like the Cruz birther movement, was actually started by one of the people that was running against Obama at the time, which in this instance was Hillary. I bit hook, line, and sinker and ran with it for like a week before I actually started doing my own research. The simple fact of the matter is, there's nowhere, anywhere that defines what the Constitution actually meant by natural-born citizen. So, absent any other evidence, we have to assume that anyone who is born an American citizen is eligible to be president. Cruz was born an American citizen because he was born to an American parent. That's how that process works. You don't believe me? Do your own research. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm not telling you what you need to do. I'm telling you that if you don't believe what I'm saying, internet and Google are your friends. Please use them. But back to Cruz. And back to something, and I didn't really get a chance to talk about this very much before we went out of town, but Tuesday night was the primary for me right before I left. And there was a local radio station here. One of the guys that does our voiceover work actually used to work for them. News Radio 1000 KTOK. here in Oklahoma City. And one of the hosts there, who I won't mention because I'm not sure if they want me talking up their shows on my little network, was actually doing call-in segments when I was driving back from voting. And the amazing thing is, he took, in the space that it took me to go vote and then go pick up my brother-in-law and come back, he took 10 calls in about an hour. 9 of those callers, and this was completely different than what I expected, 9 of those callers had voted for Cruz. 1 of them voted for Rubio. In an hour span of time, and the time it took to basically take 10 callers, some commercial breaks, and some talking, he took a random sampling of 10 people, none of which voted for Trump. Over and over again, I kept hearing the same theme, and it started with this one gentleman, who again will remain nameless, who basically told the host of this radio show that he had felt like he had had to hold his nose and vote for someone in the Republican Party simply because they were Republican since after 1988. And that for the first time since that time, when he voted for Cruz, he didn't feel like he was having to hold his nose. I heard that sentiment over and over and over again through when I was at CPAC. People that just commonly having conversations with each other, and I'd walk by and overhear them saying, you know, I voted for Cruz, and here's why I voted for Cruz, and for once I felt like I was actually voting for someone who held my principles, not just voting for someone who was just the Republican nominee. And that's the thing. Usually the primaries in my state don't mean very much. The primaries in my state always goes red. In the last election, all 77 counties in Oklahoma went red. Not a single county went to Obama. Usually by the time we get to our primary, it's a foregone conclusion who the nominee is going to be, and people are just voting to vote. This was the first time in a long time that my primary vote actually mattered. And I did my part in the primary. And I voted never Trump. Not telling you who I voted for, but I can tell you that I voted never Trump. Now, in my tiny little red state, with 7 electoral votes, in the general election, my vote won't matter much, because again, every single county usually swings red. But I can tell you that I did my part in the primary by not supporting Donald Trump. And I will do my part in the general election again by writing Mickey Mouse at the top of the ballot if that's what it takes. It will get my vote disqualified because my vote does not, or my state does not allow write-in votes. But I cannot and I will not vote for Trump. That is not a slogan for me. It's not something I used or came up with the idea to get more followers or whatever else that a lot of these other folks that have glommed onto the other side are doing. I'm doing it for exactly this reason, because I mean it. Donald Trump cannot be our president. If he's our president, it is a sure sign that our country has completely lost our way. And I have proof of that after we come back from the break, which we're not taking quite yet, by the way. But first, I still wanted to give more impressions about CPAC, because it was insane. I mean, SRLC was a big deal for me, which was the one I went to last year, because it was the first time that my station or even myself had been asked to cover anything like that. So it was a big deal, you know. I mean, I was on cloud 9 thinking I was going to get to meet some really big people, because, I mean, as far as I knew, all the big guys always came to these conventions, right? So SRLC, yeah, not so much. I didn't see, I mean, I saw a few here and there, but nobody like Hannity or Beck or Limbaugh came to SRLC. However, Hannity and Beck were definitely at CPAC. I actually had the chance to meet Beck and tried to talk to him for a second, but he had some Secret Service folks hanging around. Either that or it was his own detail. But they were pretty strict that day. Even with my media credentials, they wouldn't let me get too close to him. But we still, you know, I got to meet him, said hello, and then went on about my way. Took a couple of shots at Hannity. Oh, come on. They don't call me the rowdy one for nothing. Come on, like, I'm not going to take a shot at Hannity when I got the chance, but that's a story for another day. But spent most of the time actually running in and out of the WNJC booth at Broadcast Row, because we were lining up guests and getting things situated and going from place to place and running around like crazy people. But it was fun, I have to admit. Honestly, it's probably the most fun I've had in a very long time. Honestly, I worked so hard in those few days that I wasn't at my day job, it actually made me happy that I have the day job that I have, at least for the moment, because my day job is pretty easy and a lot less stressful compared to what I did for those few days. Now, I'm not saying if given the opportunity I would not do that full time, because we are still working on trying to find ways to make that happen. But I am saying that it's made me more thankful for what I do have and what matters, because the simple fact of the matter is, there's just no easy way to say this, folks. We are on the brink of having our country fundamentally changed in ways that we didn't expect. Some of us saw what was coming with Obama. We tried to warn you about it. Those of you that voted for him didn't listen. We then thought that after 4 years of really terrible unemployment, terrible job creation, issues with the housing market, rising food stamp usage, blah, 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 etc., that it would have been enough. It wasn't. So then we got 4 more years of Obama. And now, of course, they're touting all of these different numbers and how the economy is doing better than it has in a very long time. And the simple fact of the matter is it's Common Core economics. They're telling you that 2 + 2 = fish, when in reality 2 + 2 = 4. And for those of you who don't get that joke, let me explain it to you. 2 + 2 can technically equal fish. Because what you do is you take 1 2 and you turn it on its side. And you take the other 2 and you flip it over on top of the other one, making sure that the tails of the 2 and the tips of the 2 touch each other, and it basically looks like a fish. So it is technically a true statement, but it's not the right answer. The same thing is going on with Common Core economics. We have the highest labor unparticipation rate in forever. Otherwise, sorry, I said that wrong. The lowest labor participation rate in forever. Sorry, I'm on some Dayquil. It's kind of throwing me off. We have the highest food stamp usage in decades. We have unemployment numbers that don't even make any sense, because when you take into account the number of people that are outside of the labor force right now, and you take into account the actual population of the country, then about 25% of the people in this country right now that are of legal working age are not currently working. That's a far cry from the 5% that the administration tells you about. But they do that on purpose. And I'm not saying that I don't understand the logic of it, because in some aspects I do. Because let's face it, we are a society and a country that now has earns the majority of its income from people spending money within our borders. If people honestly knew how bad off the country was, nobody would be wanting to spend their money. They would be hoarding it instead, and that would be detrimental to the economy. Now, I'm not saying that what the president did by fudging those numbers, and what pretty much every president before him has done since possibly after Reagan, was right either. What I am saying, though, is if you're going to shield the American people from things that they honestly need to know for what you think is going to be for the betterment of the country, then please, for the love of God, do things about the actual numbers instead of continuing to tell us how great everything is when you know that it's not. So again, this is now 8 years in. The theme for CPAC this year was Our Time Is Now. And I know why they chose that, because honestly, after 8 years of Obama and failed policy after failed policy after failed policy, this was our chance to put up a legitimate conservative and say this is the difference between us and the Democrats. And what are we doing instead? We're letting the media lead us around by the nose and make the orange one. I mean, dude, everybody called Boehner orangey orange. Donald Trump looks like he takes a bath in Cheeto dust. And I'm not even, I'm not even saying that to be mean at this point. It's just the truth. He legitimately looks like he takes a bath in Cheeto dust. And yet now, the media is basically making him our appointed leader for the Republican Party. Except for the simple fact of the matter that he's not a conservative. Never has been, never has claimed to be, and will never claim to be because he's not. And if you think he is, then I urge you to take a really long, hard look at his policies and the things that he has done up until now. Because the thing to keep in mind is he keeps telling everybody that he's not a career politician. I'm not a politician. I'm not like these guys in D.C. I don't have any special interest, blah, 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 blah. No, you are a special interest. You've been buying politicians since the 70s. You've been running for president since 1988, and you're trying to tell me that you are not a career politician. You're a liar, sir. You have been running for office since 1988 and failing at it quite miserably up until now. And ask yourself, why is he doing so well now? Because he's found a way to tap into the anger of the country. He's using the anger of the last 8 years of Obama and the failed policies of Obama to the detriment of everyone else. And this was the recurring thing that kept getting talked about over and over and over again with everybody that I talked to at CPAC. And again, it goes back to the fact that almost said Obama, but really at this point they're basically interchangeable, that Trump was supposed to speak at CPAC on Saturday. The night of the debate, there was a watch party that happened in a big conference area. There were, I think, almost everybody in the conference was in attendance. It was one of the most anti-Trump areas I think I had ever seen. And I guarantee you he had people on the ground. Because within hours of that group breaking up, there was an announcement that the next day he was not going to be there. I think the debate happened on that Thursday. We found out Friday morning that he had backed out and was not going to be at CPAC. Now, bear in mind, and this was something that we talked about during the panel show on Saturday before everything wrapped up, Jeb Bush, the year before, had known that there was going to be a walkout, had known that there were people that didn't want him to be there, and yet he still showed up because it was that important to him to try to sway the voters. Donald Trump instead opted to go hang out in Kansas. The guy who was screaming that Rand Paul turned his back on Kentucky just to run home with his tail between his legs after he figured out he wasn't going to be president, turned his back on the largest conservative gathering in the country, all because he discovered it wasn't going to be favorable territory for him. Yep, this is the same guy that tells you that he's going to be able to stand up to Putin, and he's going to make the world understand that America is not something to be trifled with. And yet he can't even go into a political gathering and sway a group of people back to his way of thinking. So you tell me, and this is an honest question, whether you are a Trump supporter or not, you tell me how someone who says he's going to be dealing with people that have completely different mindsets than we do. I mean, let's face it, we're all human beings, but our cultures make us all different. Sorry, trying to talk around a cough drop sometimes gets a little difficult. Our cultures make us all different, so we don't always think the same. So you're telling me that is someone who wants to be the leader of the free world, who couldn't come into a room and dissuade or re-engage or dissuade his own people from not liking him, is suddenly going to be the one that's going to make Putin understand just how dangerous America can be if he continues to be the little douche canoe that he's been being for the last few weeks. This is what you're telling me. I don't think so, Skippy. All right, so at this point, it is about time for us to go ahead and take a really quick break. We will be right back here in just a couple of minutes. You are listening to America Off the Rails, the WNJC edition, right here on WNJC 1360 AM out of Philadelphia. I'm Rick Robinson. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I'll never learn to ride a bike. Or get cooties. I'll never learn to fly. Or travel the world with my best friend. And I won't ever get married. I couldn't grow up because I died from an accident.
At Nationwide, we believe in protecting what matters most. Your kids. Together, we can make safe happen.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. You are listening to us live on WNJC 1360 AM, the powerhouse out of Philadelphia. And at this point, we are into the last half of the show. We've got about 29 minutes till they grab the hook. So, about 24 minutes till they grab the hook. Rick Trader was about to be chasing me out of here with a broom. All right, so we've got a couple things that I want to play for you tonight. This is actually, I think, one of the biggest turning points for the crowd at CPAC. This was a clip of something that Donald Trump said live during the debate. We're going to play this clip in its entirety. Then I have a couple other things that I want to play, and then I have a question. So let's play this first, and we'll talk about it.
Trump. Just yesterday, almost 100 foreign policy experts signed on to an open letter refusing to support you, saying you're embracing expansive use of torture is inexcusable. General Michael Hayden, former CIA director, NSA director, and other experts have said that when you ask the U.S. military to carry out some of your campaign promises, specifically targeting terrorist families and also the use of interrogation methods more extreme than waterboarding, the military will refuse because they've been trained to turn down and refuse illegal orders. So what would you do as Commander-in-Chief if the U.S. military refused to carry out those orders?
They won't refuse. They're not going to refuse me, believe me.
But they're illegal.
Let me just tell you, you look at the Middle East, they're chopping off heads. They're chopping off the heads of Christians and anybody else that happens to be in the way. They're drowning people in steel cages. And now we're talking about waterboarding. This really started with Ted. A question was asked of Ted last 2 debates ago about waterboarding. And Ted was, having a hard time with that question, to be totally honest with you. They then came to me, what do you think of waterboarding? I said, it's fine. And if we want to go stronger, I'd go stronger too. Because frankly, that's the way I feel. Can you imagine these people, these animals over in the Middle East that chop off heads, sitting around talking and seeing that we're having a hard problem with waterboarding? We should go for waterboarding, and we should go tougher than waterboarding.
But targeting terrorist families?
And I'm a leader. I've always been a leader. I've never had any problem leading people. If I say do it, they're going to do it. That's what leadership is all about.
Even targeting terrorist families?
Well, look, when a family flies into the World Trade Center, a man flies into the World Trade Center, and his family gets sent back to where they were going, and I think most of you know where they went. And by the way, it wasn't Iraq, but they went back to a certain territory. They knew what was happening. The wife knew exactly what was happening. They left 2 days earlier with respect to the World Trade Center, and they went back to where they went. And they watched their husband on television flying into the World Trade Center, flying into the Pentagon, and probably trying to fly into the White House, except we had some very, very brave souls on that third plane. All right?
Senator Cruz, I
have no problem with it.
All right, so I let all of it play, but I want to draw your attention back to what he said there at the very beginning, because the question, notice he never actually answered the question. The question was because he was actually caught on record stating that as far as he was concerned, anyone who was caught committing terrorist acts, we should also target their families. And then he goes to mention the folks that knew about the situation on 9/11 that flew away to safety, blah, blah, blah. Look, I understand everybody's angry. I really do. And I understand the mindset of a lot of folks, because I've even said things that were pretty harsh in the heat of the moment. But to think that we're going to tell these men and women, we have a volunteer army, folks. Everybody that's in the army right now, we don't have a draft. They go on their own. They go because either they want to serve or because they thought it was going to be a good way to get college paid for, whatever their reasoning was. They're there because they wanted to be there, either because they were getting something out of it or because they wanted to serve. For this man to stand up in front of the entire country and say, I don't care if the orders that I give are illegal because they will not disobey me, that says a lot more about him than it does about our military. And if that does not make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, then you are not paying attention to what he just said. They will not disobey me. That wasn't a question. That wasn't a statement. That was an imperative. They will not disobey me. I've never, ever, ever heard someone who was auditioning for the role of commander-in-chief look at the American people and basically tell you that if you are part of the military, you had damn well better not disobey me. Because that's what that was. That was a shot across the military's bow, that if he's the one that gets control, you better listen, and you better listen up, and you better do what I say, or else. And these are the same tactics that he has taken over and over and over again, and nobody's calling him for it. I saw an article today, and for the record, this is something that he didn't deny. I saw an article today that during around the time that his father passed, his brother, pardon me, his brother had a child. The child was born with severe disabilities, seizures, cerebral palsy, etc. And Donald Trump said, "Don't worry about it. I've got the money. We're going to take care of it. I'll take care of all the bills." Well, shortly after that, it came to light after Fred Trump Sr. had passed, which I guess his brother's name is Fred Trump Jr. But after Dad had passed, there were all these allegations that at some point Trump had managed to cut that part of the family out of the will. They got angry, words were said, lawsuits were filed, and all of a sudden Donald Trump is not paying for the medical expenses anymore. That's right, of his nephew. Because he got mad because his brother sued him. Because his brother felt like he had done something untoward, because suddenly money that he thought he was going to be getting is no longer there. Because there was a change made to the will. So he hired an attorney to try to find out exactly what was going on and whether it was done legally. And instead of saying, "Yeah, you know what, no big deal, it's only money." "Oh, you're going to come after me? Fine. You know those medical bills I was paying for your kid? Yeah, forget about it." And yeah, I'm trying to talk like a mob boss right now on purpose, because that's how this man behaves. He doesn't reason. He doesn't negotiate. He bullies. And if you want the United States of America to become every stereotype that the rest of the world has painted us to be for the last 30 years, then please, by all means, put this man in the White House. Please. Because we will be the biggest bullies on the planet. And a lot of us, some of us will feel really good while that's going on. "Oh, we're finally getting back at those Japanese for bringing all their car plants over here. Oh, we're finally getting back at all those Chinese for taking our jobs. Oh, look at that huge wall we're building to keep the Mexicans out." If you honestly think any of that's going to happen, you are a bigger idiot than Donald Trump. You don't understand how the world works. The world has been interconnected since the end of World War II, and it was done so by design. Why do you think that since World War II there have been no all-out wars? Because there cannot be any more all-out wars. Because they found a way to make the world susceptible to economic mutually assured destruction by making sure that every country's economy was attached to another country's economy, and so forth and so on. So every single country and every single economy is connected like a spider web. It's why ever since World War II and the end of World War II, anyone who goes to war doesn't fight to win, they go to wound. Because they can't. Because if they decimate the country, if they destroy the country, then eventually the ripple effect will destroy our own economy. So if you honestly think that this man can do half of the things that he's telling you he's going to do, you're full of it, because the world does not work that way. The deck has been stacked for a long time, whether we want to face it or not, and all we are doing at this point is making sure that we give someone who doesn't need it even more power. The one thing that in 30, 40 years that he's not been able to do is get a hold of the presidency. He's been trying since 1988. Failed repeatedly under Republican, independent, weird party names. He's tried over and over and over again, and we're about to hand it to him. because it's the one thing that his money couldn't buy him until now. The presidency. And the unfettered power that comes with it. Now, I've tried over and over again to show counterpoint as to why this is a bad idea. We're going to try another way, because I have an idea, and I'm hoping maybe this one will work. So I'm going to play something for you real quick, and then I'm going to play something else. And then I'm hoping, what I hope is that you'll see that, I don't know. I'll explain it in a second, but here, let's do this first.
We're gonna spread happiness. We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em. We're gonna change it and rearrange it. We're gonna change the world.
Alright, so I think that's enough of that. Pretty creepy, right? You know, that's one of those things we were talking about with the Obama song. You know, there's another one out there, the Barack Hussein Obama, that some teacher made some school kids sing. And everybody started coming unglued because, you know, you shouldn't make kids sing about political figures and that's brainwashing, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. So somehow that was wrong. And I admit, in my opinion, that was wrong. This, however, is also wrong, but a lot of folks on my side don't seem to think so.
Cowardice. Are you serious? Apologies for freedom. I can't handle this. When freedom rings, answer the call. On your feet, stand up tall. Freedom's on our shoulders. USA! Enemies of freedom. Face the music. Come on, boys, take them down. President Donald Trump knows how to make America great. Deal from strength or get crushed every time.
President Donald Trump knows how to make America great. Deal from strength or get crushed every single time. Now, compare and contrast the fact that 7.5 years ago, when these songs started coming out that kids were singing about and to President Obama, the right and even some folks from the left started completely freaking out. We're like, hey, yeah, didn't know, I understand patriotism, but the songs are supposed to be about the country, not the president. You know, forefathers, you know, Washington, Lincoln, those kind of things. Yeah, of course there's been songs written about those guys. They deserve to have songs written about them. These guys, not so much. But this is my point. I've been telling you over and over and over again that this is the cult of personality movement. It's the same thing that happened with Obama over and over and over again. And it's now happening on our side of the aisle. But nobody wants to admit it because we're so angry at what's happened to our country that we're not seeing clearly. And all we're doing is listening to a guy who keeps telling us over and over again that he's going to be the guy that's going to make America great again because he's going to build a wall. And it's going to be huge. Building the wall will not fix our country. The thing that nobody's telling you about this wall, because I got to admit, part of me thinks it's a good idea, but then logic kicks in. There are already walls. And now there are tunnels under those walls. The wall's not going to fix the problem. Neither will touchback amnesty. which is what his immigration plan is. He's not going to be hard on immigration. If anything, he's going to waste a bunch of money to get everybody out and then just fast-track the ones back in here that he wants. He already admitted during the debate that he uses H-1B visas like they're candy. Because real Americans don't want temporary jobs. They don't want seasonal work, so I have no choice. All the other hotels around me do the same thing. They're not the ones telling everybody how bad illegal immigration is. And for those of you who don't understand how the H-1B visas work, you really probably should look them up. Because, yes, they're legally in the country for the term of that visa, but they're also legally obligated to continue to work for no one but that company that got them the visa. So it's basically indentured servitude for the time that they're in the country. So they're being paid below standard wages, and you know they are. Why else would they be importing them? They're locked into working for that specific country. And the guy that keeps telling you that he's going to be the one to fix the immigration problem is one of the ones that is using it to his full benefit. It's no different than all the noise and the rhetoric that he's made about the tax codes and the bankruptcy laws and everything else. The man uses those things to his benefit, and so do his friends. Why in the world would he possibly try to do anything to change them? Now, you know as well as I do, because even he's admitted at this point that the New York Times has him on off record saying something, but he doesn't want it released. The New York Times has said that it was basically him stating that not to believe what he says. Now, of course, I'm sure behind the scenes there's been some arguing. Probably some money has changed hands, and now all of a sudden the Times is like, well, maybe it's not as bad as we thought. But here's my point. Donald Trump still never once said, go ahead, release it. I have nothing to hide from the American people. He didn't do that. So I don't care how much the Times backs off. They had something or they never would have brought it up. And the simple fact of the matter is that some of the same things that I've been saying to all of you that are Trump supporters from the beginning. You are doing nothing but exactly what you had accused the other side of doing for 7.5, now nearly 8 years. Being completely enamored with an individual that you weren't listening to the things that he was telling you if you were just paying attention. The things that Donald Trump is telling you, if you would bother to listen, are very, very scary. He's telling you that the military cannot disobey him. He's telling you that he will target the press when he becomes president. He's telling you that he's going to build a wall. Is he going to build the wall? I'm not sure. But when he builds the wall, there are two purposes for a wall. You tell me what the real purpose for the wall is if he doesn't want whatever the New York Times has on a recording of him saying released to the public. Is the wall to keep them out? Or is the wall to keep us in? Now, I'm not trying to go tinfoil hat on you here, folks. I'm really not. What I'm trying to do is make you understand that there has to be a reason that this man does not want whatever the New York Times has to be released. And that can't be a good reason. It legitimately cannot be. So again, as we come to a close, I leave you with this question. Why is the one song okay and the other's not? Why was it not okay when Barack Obama won the White House with zero substance, not once but twice? But now that your guy is standing up there telling you what you want to hear with zero substance, it's all of a sudden okay. I mean, Ann Coulter has flipped her wig. Sean Hannity, I'm not sure. I can barely listen to his show anymore. And I can't watch him on TV because every time I turn around, he's got Trump on there. And when I hear Trump's voice, my head wants to explode. I even have friends in talk radio that don't talk to me anymore because they're Trumpers and I'm not. One of the guys that runs a show on my station, live every day from 8 to 11 Central, competing with Glenn Beck, mainly because Glenn Beck is anti-Trump, and this guy is completely pro-Trump. We barely speak anymore. I don't know if it's because we've both gotten really busy, or if it's because he's realized that we're on opposite sides of an argument. I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told one of the vetoes at CPAC when I told them, because they were concerned, because they had realized that I had basically done something that a commentator doesn't normally do, and had completely come out opposed to a candidate and said, there's no way, can't do it, not going to vote for him. They're like, but Rick, you got to be careful. Twitter's kind of fickle. Right now, you're winning people over, but if the mood changes, you could lose people. People could stop paying attention to you. They could stop paying attention to your show. I didn't start any of this to win friends and influence people. I started this to make a difference. And that's what I'm going to do with it for as long as I have a voice. And if that means I have to take unpopular positions and unpopular opinions and tell you what I think, regardless of the consequences, that is exactly what I'm going to do. And that's why I tell you the same thing that I tell you almost every single time as the show comes to a close, as it is right now. I don't care if you agree or disagree with anything that I say. I don't care if you disagree with me to the point that you disagree with 95% of what comes out of my mouth, or even 99.9% of what comes out of my mouth. What I do care about is that it's time for you to find a way to get involved. I don't care if it's stumping for a candidate, knocking on doors, picking up a phone. Start a blog, give people your opinions. Start a Facebook page. Heck, that's how half of this stuff started. Start a Twitter account. If you haven't done that yet, you really need to anyway. Twitter's a really awesome place to get to know folks and to hang around with like-minded people. But whatever you're going to do and however you're going to do it, it's time to put down the remote. It's time to get off the couch. And it's time to get engaged, because this country is in real trouble. Whether you agree with everything that I'm saying or nothing that I'm saying, you can at least agree with me in the fact that the country is in severe, dire straits. We may disagree with how we're going to fix it, but we still agree that it needs to be fixed. Until I see you next time, folks, this is Rick Robinson signing off. This is America Off the Rails. We'll be back with you right here on WNJC next week and live tonight on K98 Pop.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.